Hey, you guys. Part two of Coffee with Karen today. Feeling a little bit more alert if you listen to the first one. But I just had a really big aha moment thanks to, I'm looking over at the TV, Channeling the Galactic Council of Nine with Pamela Arlin Channeling. Okay, so I will post it in the community tab on this channel, that video specifically. Okay. Huge aha, because this whole thing with the drones and the ETs or whatever. And not only it, well, that's what brought this conversation up. But now I understand fully, which I didn't, I did and I didn't, but now I have words to it, how the SGs end up answering things differently than other mediums might be answering. Okay. It is because this was my aha that there are different timelines. Okay. And it depends on which timeline we're reading from. That is my guess. So all of it is right. When an intuitive responds or gets a message from one timeline, another intuitive is getting a message from a different timeline. Isn't that interesting? So the one that feels the best to you is the timeline you're choosing. Okay. If it doesn't feel good to you, what they're saying, then that timeline is not right for you. And so if I've noticed myself get less and less interested in conspiracy stuff. I used to like to watch all that stuff. And I even talked about in the last video about watching history of governmental stuff and, not necessarily not necessarily conspiracy, but more what did they do in the past that now they, that could lead me to believe that I understand the government. Let's just put it that way. But I'm getting less and less interested in those things. And I think it's because I'm shifting timelines. I'm shifting into timelines that are more focused on love, more focused on spirituality, more focused on humanity, equality, compassion. And that's my shift where I've been really kind of interested in those things. And like I used to really like watching murder mysteries and those kind of things. I'm not that interested anymore. And I think it's because I'm shifting timelines. So I wonder, because you know how sometimes I'll get comments, I don't know if you know this, but sometimes I'll get comments that the SGs are just picking up on my energy. And now I'm like, no. I think the SGs are picking up on the timeline I'm living in or the timeline I'm shifting to. That's my aha, and I'm going to stick with it for now. I'm just going to let it percolate. What do you think? So, if you want to continue being in the timeline of conspiracy theory and fear and all that kind of stuff, then you're going to believe the things that you're hearing that are based on those things. Or when you start to listen to them and you go, doesn't do anything for me. Like I don't care. Doesn't do anything for me. Then there's a real possibility that you're shifting and you can choose to make that shift. But I think you can choose to make that shift, but I prefer, just me, I'm glad that I'm making that shift sort of naturally, but I think I started really paying when I was watching murder mysteries and stuff like a year ago, like heavy, like every murder mystery I could find. And then I just started realizing that I was feeling a lot of fear and I'm like, ooh, why am I choosing this? Why am I choosing this? So that was where I got to, is questioning why I'm choosing this. And my sister Marcia has been choosing a different timeline for a very long time. She lives completely on a different timeline. And I'm joining her there. Because she's been kind of saying that to me for a long time, but I've always been like, oh, I got to know what's going on. I gotta dissect human nature, and I was just interested in that. So, but she allowed me, and this is just an example of how we can do this with other people. She would plant little seeds about, never watching the news and never watching programs that are not helpful to her, not in love or laughter or something like that. And just spending time with children and her kids and family and, and putting little nudges, just little reminders, never judgment. And I'm starting to catch up with, and I think we need to do that. We have to allow people to be in the timeline they're choosing, But it's interesting. I just had this huge aha this morning, and thank you to Pamela, channeling the Council of Nine. So please check her out. And the Council of Nine, absolutely amazing. How fortunate she is to be able to have those direct messages coming through her and being, as a human being, to be able to share those. And I feel the same way about the SGs. It's just different how she's sharing. But now when I talk about the SGs, I can now, so when I do a video tonight with the SGs answering questions, I'm going to feel more comfortable because I'm going to feel more comfortable that the SGs are speaking from the timeline that I am living in, that I am focused on. And so if that feels good to you, it doesn't feel good to some people because they leave comments. It doesn't feel good to some people. So that's not the timeline that they're wanting to live on. And I'm not saying my timeline's better. I'm just saying that we're all, and the Council of Nine said there's literally billions of timelines. I mean, does that freak you out? But then they do narrow it down into 3 right now. And it has to do with the drones and all that. So that's why it was really interesting. And it's really catching my attention. So, yeah, I hope people watch this second video since I'm doing Coffee with Karen twice today. Because it's a big aha moment for me, and I wonder if it will be for you. And so which timeline do you want to choose? Which timeline do you want to choose? And I will continue on this channel to explore things that are happening in a different timeline than I'm sitting in with the SGs. And it may get less and less, but it is interesting. I don't think, and you'll have to tell me if you disagree, I don't think to be living in one timeline, you have to completely ignore the other one. I don't think so. I don't know. But right now, I don't feel the need to completely ignore it. I just don't, it's not triggering me at all, the stuff going on in the world. And, again, tomorrow I could wake up and feel different, but I think we can switch back and forth, I don't know. I never really thought of this way. So I have some enlightenment in terms of the SGs, though. Or maybe our SGs, as I do a reading with your questions, are encouraging us to be in that particular timeline. That's why they're answering the questions that way. To be in that timeline. I don't know. Maybe that's the case. Maybe we need to ask them. So if you have a question about timelines, I do have a small list of questions about timelines. So after you listen to this, and maybe if you listen to Pamela with channeling the Council of Nine, maybe you'll have more questions about timelines. Come back and put it in the video here or any video. Just leave a comment with a question on timelines, and we'll, because I'm getting more and more interested in this timeline stuff because I think it'll help us understand what we can choose to experience, And then the question does become, does it matter if we're aware of what's going on? You know, if you didn't see this from the first video, you'll have to go. You'll have to take a look and see why do I have this? And I don't have Munyon, so that's in the first video for today. All right, well, anyways, I really got excited and wanted to share my aha. I hope I maintain it. I'm still, getting my head wrapped around the timeline thing, but I really got it a different way today in respect to working with the SGs. And why? Because last night when we did the video on answering the questions about the drones, why some mediums are getting a totally different message. And I think that's, some mediums are staying in that timeline to be able to talk about that stuff with their audience. And you know what? They're getting a lot of views. And I'm not saying they're manipulating to get the lot of views. It's just the timeline that they're choosing to be in. I think. Again, it's not a right or wrong thing at all. I'm not putting anyone down. Just exploring the concepts. So, but it is interesting which of my videos get way more views and which ones don't. And I'm not going to do content based on views because I don't want to remain in that timeline. And the timeline that's getting more views are the third dimension, not so fun. So I think I'm going to have a mug that says third dimension timeline, 1 star, terrible, would not recommend. Right? That's okay. I got it. I'm going to have to do a little series of these mugs. Marcia, Lob, we need to do a series of these mugs. If it's not copyrighted, I don't know how it could be, but yeah, third dimension timeline, not recommended. But so many people, including myself, keep going back to those videos to make sense out of the third dimension timeline. But the question is, how long do you want to keep doing that? And so that's going to be the challenge here. It's like, because I am interested. I'm still interested in what's going on in the third dimension. But at some point, are we going to say, I'm not really interested anymore. I just kind of want to be in a space that is not focused on the third dimension timeline. And I am happy to play that role here. I just know the views will be a lot lower. It's okay. It does, I'm not doing it. I mean, I never started this just for views. I just started it because it was fun to share the SGs and share, just facilitate conversation about spirituality and stuff. Facilitate, because I don't have any answers. I just have like my little, what I'm growing in every day, and I feel very fortunate and grateful for anyone who wants to have that conversation here. So yeah, I think that's it. It's very interesting how many people want to stay, at least right now. I think people are trying to understand it. They're trying to understand it, which is why the videos that are about current happenings, that are not pleasant current happenings, by the way. If I did a video on the fabulous work of somebody, and asked the SGs questions, then that would get probably less views than tell me why Scott Peterson unalived his wife. Like, ask those questions, or something. I don't know if anybody knows about Scott, remembers him, but at first, at one point, I was thinking about doing, because I think it would be interesting, but doing like, somebody had said, oh, I would love you to do videos like this. Like, why did the Lindbergh baby actually get unalived by the family or something like that was one of the questions. And I'm like, that's very interesting. But the question is, do we want to stay? Are we staying in that timeline if we continue to have those conversations? Do we want to stay in that timeline here on this channel? Or are there so many channels that stay in that timeline that it would be better for this channel and this community to shift out of that? But again, I guarantee it. From a business perspective, it's a bad idea for me, my sister, and Lob, who are now living on, it's just a bad idea. But the more and more people who shift, who will no longer be interested in those things. So how, maybe that's my job as facilitator, is to find an interesting way to shift and stay in the shift, in the fourth dimension timeline, fifth dimension timeline, whatever, and find a way to do that that's still interesting. Because we still want to be interested. We still have egos, I still want to be, intrigued by things. And I think the third dimension intrigues us. It just does. Again, you can tell by the views that certain videos get. The videos about conspiracy, the videos about... So this is a really good opportunity for you to check yourself on what you're watching. And I'm absolutely doing the same thing because that's my awareness today. So it's time to check ourselves. Do you want to remain in the third dimension? If you do, then you will continue watching those things, or you will slowly start moving away from it and spending more time on channels like mine or others that you find that are living in the fourth dimension, which would be like Lee Harris Energies, channeling the nines, it's these kind of channels. Although she's still using an example of what's going on today to help educate about the timelines. So that's the balance, right? Because that's interesting. Because I don't want to, it's taken me a long time, and I think I'm going to wake up tomorrow and be like, okay, what's that thing about timelines again? Because it's an interesting concept, and I'm not even sure I'm accurate. Well, again, I don't really believe anything's right or wrong, but it's right now, it's feeling right to me. So I wonder how it feels to you, that concept. But if my role as facilitator is to bring people along, if they want to be brought along, then you use some things from the third dimension to help people understand how they can shift. So maybe I'm just really kind of exploring my role in doing it with you in a way that explores this community a little bit. So what do you think? Is that, do we just stay, this community stay in the fifth dimension, let's just say, in terms of conversation? Or do we help people who want to have a better understanding, meet them where they're at, but help them come to the fifth dimension without, as long as we can do that without getting sucked in to the fear and the, I don't know, it's interesting. I'm quite interested in this concept all of a sudden. So, all right. Well, thanks for listening. I really appreciate it. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate you guys. You're amazing. Everybody is just so kind, and just thank you. Thank you for being a subscriber if you are. Thank you for joining the Spirit Circle if you have. Thank you to people who've given super thanks and donations. We have a Venmo now because people have asked, because it's cheaper. We actually get 100%, but if you do super thanks, we don't quite get we get a 70%, something like that. But so anyways, thank you so much. So grateful for you allowing me to just process and bringing you along in my thought process. It's just as long as you stick here, however long it works for you, I'm just grateful for it. So thank you. We'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.